Everyone knew him as TV's charming Colonel Hogan, but no one knew the dark secrets that followed him to the end. Bob Crane. To the world, he was the charming, clever Colonel Hogan, leading Allied prisoners of war in Hogan's Heroes. But behind that smile, Crane's life was unraveling in ways Hollywood could never imagine. A career built on laughter ended in scandal, betrayal, and a violent death that left a cloud of unanswered questions. Want to support our channel? Join the Echo Insider. Just hover over the Echo Insider icon, click and watch new videos before anyone else. Before Bob Crane lit up television screens as Colonel Hogan, he was already a star in another world, the world of radio. In Los Angeles, Crane wasn't just a host, he was a master of voices, a performer who could slip into character so seamlessly it felt like magic. Morning after morning, listeners tuned in to hear him banter with Hollywood legends, Marilyn Monroe, Bob Hope, Charlton Heston, without ever leaving their kitchen. Crane had charm, humor, and that rare kind of charisma that made people lean in, listen, and trust him. Walt Disney himself once called Crane the fastest wit in the West, and it wasn't an exaggeration. With every quick joke, every perfectly timed laugh, Crane wasn't just entertaining, he was building a reputation that would carry him straight into the heart of Hollywood. But here's the thing, even in these early years, beneath the confident voice and dazzling smile, there were hints of restlessness, of a hunger for more excitement than life had yet offered. Little did anyone know that hunger would later steer him into territory no one could have imagined. Then came television, and with it, Colonel Robert Hogan. In 1965, Bob Crane took on a role that would make him immortal, the clever, smiling leader of Hogan's Heroes, a comedy about prisoners of war constantly outsmarting their captors. Audiences loved him immediately. He wasn't just acting, he was commanding screens, owning every scene with a grin that made people believe he had everything under control, even in the darkest moments of the show's war-themed plots. The fame hit fast and hard. Crane's face appeared on billboards, lunchboxes, and magazine covers across America. Millions knew him as the witty, resourceful Hogan, someone who always had a plan, someone you could root for. And yet, behind that perfectly polished image, cracks were forming. Those who knew him personally saw something else, a man chasing excitement, experimenting with risks that could and would change everything. Every laugh on set hid a complexity. Every smile masked a private obsession. Crane's life was about to take a turn into a world most of his fans would never guess existed. While the world adored Bob Crane for his smile and wit, a different side of him was quietly emerging, one that few suspected and even fewer understood. It started innocently enough. Crane loved photography. He enjoyed experimenting with cameras, testing video equipment, capturing portraits of friends, and tinkering with new gadgets. But what began as a hobby slowly became something deeper, something personal, almost addictive. The turning point came when his Hogan's Heroes co-star, Richard Dawson, introduced him to John Henry Carpenter, a video equipment salesman with connections across Hollywood. Together, they explored the cutting edge of recording technology, cameras, tripods, and gadgets that most people wouldn't even recognize. But for Crane, it wasn't just about technology. It became about control, about capturing life and certain intimate moments on film. What made this more shocking to those around him wasn't just the equipment, it was the obsession. Crane's friends noticed that he was constantly preoccupied with recording, with planning, with the thrill of capturing something secret. The man who made millions laugh on screen was living a double life off screen, a life hidden behind lenses and tape reels. And that secret, the thing no one could fully see, would later become a central clue in a tragedy that shocked Hollywood forever. As Crane's obsession grew, so did the cracks in his personal life. His first marriage, to Ann Terzian, the woman he'd known since high school and the mother of his 3 children, ended after more than 2 decades. His second marriage, to Patricia Olson, a woman familiar to Hogan's Heroes fans as Secret Valdez, was also plagued by tension. Crane's growing fixation on his private experiments, combined with the lure of constant excitement and fame, put strain on his closest relationships. Even on set, his behavior was noticeable. Colleagues whispered about his distracted energy, the way his mind seemed elsewhere, always calculating his next recording or secret adventure. Hollywood insiders began to wonder, was this the same man who had once been the epitome of charm, the actor who could charm legends like Marilyn Monroe and Walt Disney? Or had Crane's private world begun to consume him completely? By the late 1970s, Crane had left the height of television behind. Stage work became his main outlet, a way to keep performing while attempting to rebuild his career. But the shadow of his obsession and of his complicated friendship with Carpenter loomed large. Crane confided to friends that he wanted to leave the old habits behind, to start fresh, to cut ties with the part of his life that had become dangerous. Yet fate had a different plan. Unbeknownst to him, the life he thought he could escape from was closing in, and the events it would trigger were about to shock the world. June 29, 1978, Scottsdale, Arizona. Bob Crane, once the charismatic star of Hogan's Heroes, was just weeks away from his 50th birthday. Friends say he was ready for a fresh start, ending his second marriage, cutting ties with old habits, and leaving behind friendships that had become toxic. But no one could have imagined that his life and his story would end that afternoon in the most shocking way imaginable. Co-star Victoria Annberry went to check on Crane after he missed a lunch appointment. What she found would haunt Hollywood forever. In the quiet of his apartment, Crane lay lifeless in his bed, head severely injured. Nearby, an electrical cord and a camera tripod hinted at the violence that had struck him down. The scene was eerily undisturbed. Nothing stolen, no forced entry. Whoever had done this was someone Crane trusted, or someone who knew how to enter without warning. Suspicion quickly turned toward John Carpenter, the man who had been Crane's constant companion in recent years. Just days before, Carpenter had flown into Phoenix to spend time with Crane. That night, they reportedly shared dinner and even watched some of Crane's private recordings together. Carpenter claimed he returned to his motel afterward, but witness statements and the timeline of events didn't fully match. The world had just witnessed the murder of a beloved television icon, and the mystery was only beginning. The Scottsdale Police Department, unprepared for a high-profile homicide, quickly ran into problems. The crime scene was mishandled, with friends and even Crane's eldest son allowed to enter the apartment before evidence could be properly secured. Fingerprints, hair, and footprints were inadvertently contaminated, making it nearly impossible to get a clear picture of what happened. Investigators collected the cameras, tripods, tapes, and recording equipment, clues that hinted at the private secret world Crane had built. And while the evidence tied Carpenter to Crane, it also complicated the investigation. Blood in Carpenter's rental car matched Crane's type, but DNA testing, as we know it today, didn't exist yet. Without a murder weapon, clear fingerprints, or modern forensic technology, prosecutors had little chance of building a solid case. By the end of the initial investigation, the authorities faced a chilling reality. This wasn't just a murder, it was a puzzle wrapped in Hollywood glamour, obsession, and betrayal. Every lead seemed to vanish into questions. Who could have done this? Was it the friend Crane had trusted most? Or someone else entirely, lurking in the shadows of fame and secrecy? The case went cold, leaving behind only rumors, grief, and a story that would haunt Hollywood for decades. Years passed and Bob Crane's murder remained a cold case. But in 1992, advances in DNA technology breathed new life into the investigation. Authorities arrested John Carpenter, the man who had been Crane's closest companion in the years leading up to his death. Finally, it seemed there might be a chance for answers. The trial, which began in 1994, unfolded like a real-life Hollywood drama. The prosecution painted a vivid picture: a man betrayed, angered, and obsessed, allegedly striking out in a fit of rage when Crane attempted to sever their friendship. Blood evidence, the tangled history between Crane and Carpenter, and testimony from Crane's son, Scotty, who revealed that his father had spoken openly about cutting Carpenter out of his life, all pointed to Carpenter's potential guilt. But the defense dismantled the case with surgical precision. The key DNA samples were missing. The crime scene had been catastrophically mishandled decades earlier. The weapon was speculative at best, and there were countless other people who could have had motive. Weeks of courtroom tension ended with a shocking decision. Carpenter was acquitted. The verdict left a void, not just for the public seeking justice, but for Crane's family, who had hoped this trial might finally provide closure. Instead, the murder remained officially unsolved, the truth buried beneath decades of speculation, media frenzy, and legal maneuvering. Bob Crane made the world laugh, but his life reminds us that the brightest smiles can hide the darkest secrets. What really happened that night in Scottsdale? Was justice ever possible? Share your thoughts in the comments, because some mysteries might never be solved. If you enjoyed this story, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It really makes us smile. And if you're hungry for more fascinating tales, check out the 2 videos right below. You might just discover your next favorite story.